I think we only have 3 tag holders here, so I'll just try to keep this short. My name's Andrew Rosenberg. Worked for ODF&W out of the Dalles for quite a few years. Actually working out of our Pendleton office now, but I do know a lot about these hunt areas. Got to do a lot of field work in the Deschutes and John Day River Canyons while I was doing field work in the Dalles. This presentation, it's really just set up so you guys can know the difference between ewes, yearling rams, and ram lambs. And to be completely honest, it's fairly simple, but we do want to make sure that you guys, know this information very well, so nobody harvests accidentally a ram lamb or a yearling ram. So we'll just start off a little bit and talk about some of the goals of our ewe hunts. Really all 4 of these, they have to do with disease management. So this is a new thing in Oregon, having these ewe hunts. And the goal of them in general is to keep our populations at a more manageable level in those areas where we do have a lot of sheep. We don't want them dispersing and coming into contact with domestic sheep where they can get diseases and then take those back to the herd. So it's really just a new means of population management that we have, and we're pretty excited to have this as a tool, really. So what we want to do is we want to remove adult ewes from the population. I believe the bag limit actually just says any ewe, but with this presentation, we really want to make sure that you guys try to target an adult ewe. That's the best thing for population management as a whole. We want to reduce the risk of disease transmission, like I said, by just reducing the population. And we want to manage our herds at a more sustainable level. Another big thing with this, in Oregon, we just don't really have any more transplant locations. So historically, we were doing a lot of captures. We were moving sheep from place to place to repopulate new areas. And really, we're just out of places to put sheep at this point. So this is just a new tool to manage them. So the purpose of this presentation, it's basically just going to give you the skills to identify an adult ewe, make sure you know the difference between them and a yearling ram and a ram lamb. This presentation actually we developed it and made it very similar to a presentation that the state of Nevada has. They started doing ewe hunts there a few years ago, and the biggest issue that they had was with folks accidentally harvesting ram lambs. Personally, I don't think that's going to be a big issue in Oregon, and the reason for that is they have desert bighorn sheep, which is a different subspecies. Their lambs are born in February, so by the time their hunting season starts in Nevada, they have fairly long horns, and they can be confused for ewes. In Oregon, our lambs are born in April and May, so during the hunting season, their horns are going to be very short. It's not going to be that challenging to tell the difference, and we'll show you some pictures of those in the presentation. So let's just go over a few characteristics of ewes. They've got a narrow horn base. There's going to be a slide after this. It's going to show it relative to the eye. But essentially their horn base is going to be the same width as their eye. They've got a sickle or a crescent-shaped horn. The way I like to think of that, it kind of looks like a new moon where you just like clip the bottom off of it. Generally, they will squat their rear legs when they're urinating, so they're really going to be bent down and have their knees bent, whereas a ram or a yearling ram is going to stretch their legs when they're urinating. This one, I know it's super obvious, but this is actually really important when you're looking at sheep and you're not sure what you're looking at. Just make sure that you look for testicles. A ram's going to have testicles and a ewe is not. I'm going to try not to say that many more times in this presentation because it will just make me laugh too much. Oh, and then the last one, multiple annuli on horns indicates adult age. So like I was saying before, your bag limit is any ewe, but we'd prefer you to take an adult ewe. So try to find a ewe that has relatively long horns and that you can see multiple annuli. So you can see on this one here, it's got several annuli crammed into this area here, and then there's one there, and there's a lamb tip there. So we'll talk a little bit about characteristics of yearling rams. really when you see that picture, it's just not that difficult. What you see is that the bases of their horns, they're just very large in comparison to a ewe, much wider than their eye. And I've got some pictures, side views of that as well. They've got a larger, more pronounced forehead. So when you're looking at them from the front, they just look funny looking. Like their head just looks way too big for their body. You guys see that? I'm not going to say it anymore. And they generally will stretch their legs when they're urinating. So they'll be stretched backwards rather than squatting down. And so this is a ram lamb. This picture, I think this was taken in Oregon, but it was taken in the spring. And so what you can see is it's got, for a lamb, relatively long horns. But what you really need to look for if you do see a younger looking sheep that looks like this, it's got a penis spot right there. I'm fairly confident that most of the lambs that you guys are going to be looking at during the hunting season are going to have much shorter horns than this. Since this is in the spring, that thing put on growth all through the fall, probably stopped growth in the winter period, and then put on some growth in March and April when that picture was taken. So it's not going to be as challenging as that. A major thing to look for, though, and I do have another picture of a shorter horned lamb. They've got darker horns, so the coloration is much darker than that of a ewe. Here's a good comparison of a ewe to a yearling ram. So what you can see here, base of the horns, about as wide as the eye, and it's got that crescent shape. The yearling ram, much wider than the eye. The shape is pretty similar, but when you're looking at these from the front, they're generally going to be out a little more than a ewe. Not all the time. Some ewes will have kind of outwardly curved horns, but most of them are going to be more straight. So this picture here is basically showing a yearling ram standing next to a ewe that kind of looks similar to a yearling ram because it's got those outwardly curved horns. So a couple things you want to look for if you were looking at these two sheep. Clearly, this is a ewe. It doesn't have testicles. The male does have testicles, and it's got these thicker horn bases. Fairly easy to tell in that photo. This slide here, really it's just trying to get across the point to try to look for an adult ewe. All of the sheep in this picture are ewes and lambs. There's probably a couple of ewes in here that I didn't circle that would be harvestable, but all the ones that I did show with circles around them, those are more mature ewes. So what you can see on them, when you're looking at a mature ewe, they've got a much longer snout, so their face just looks long relative to the rest of their body or to their horns. Their horn length is longer than the younger ewes, and you need good optics to see this, but they've got multiple annuli. So generally on a ewe, what you're going to see when they have multiple annuli is a lamb tip, a ring that's probably somewhere in the center of the horn, and then several rings that are kind of crammed into the base of their horn. So that's what you really want to look for. And then this is really the big thing for this whole presentation. If you're in doubt or you're not sure what you're looking at, don't shoot. This picture right here is a ram lamb. It's a picture from Oregon, and I'm pretty confident this is about what their horn growth is going to be like when you're looking at them in the fall during the hunt period. So what you can see about this one is it's got much darker horns than the ewes will. Okay, so these are just quiz slides. Hopefully you guys will interact a little bit on this. So let's just go through these and you guys can tell me what they are. We'll start with the hardest one. What's this one? This is a ram lamb. It's got the darker horns. It's got clearly a penis that's visible, and it does look very similar to a ewe. So that's a tough one. What's this one here?
Ram lamb.
It's a yearling ram. How about this one? Yes, that's a legal ewe. So yearling ram, ram lamb, ewe. Okay, so on this one, somebody tell me how many yearling rams are in the picture, and make sure you look at the whole picture because there's kind of some hidden ones. How many? Yep, there's 3. There's one here, and one here. So for this one, somebody identify and tell me where the yearling ram is. You can just describe where it's at. Where's it at?
Top.
All right, nice. Yep, so it's right here. Now, somebody tell me where the lamb's at. It's a little bit hidden, but you can see a lamb there. It's not the easiest to describe, but it's right here. That's probably a ram lamb. You can see it's got darker, much shorter horns. Okay, so identify all these sheep. We'll just go from left to right. What's this one? Yearling ram. How about this one? Ewe. This one, Sawyer?
Ewe.
This one?
Ewe.
It's a ewe. How about that one?
Yearling.
Yearling ram. Now, how about this one? What do you guys see in this picture? Is there any yearling rams or lambs? This is the only funky looking one. That's actually probably incredibly old ewe right here. You can see it's got one horn completely broken off. But yeah, all of these are ewes, and all of these are honestly really good examples of ones that you should look for. They're all pretty mature. They got long horns. They have longer faces, indicating they're not lambs or yearlings. And it's hard to see, but they probably have multiple annuli in their horns. This one's probably over 20 years old. Let's see, find the yearling ram. There's just one in this picture. Second from the left? Yep, right there. All right, so summary slide. Honestly, just be super patient. This is not that challenging of a hunt. I mean, the terrain is fairly challenging, but there's just so many sheep. It's not going to be hard to find ewes. So just be patient, use good optics, and just don't shoot at anything that you're questioning. Yeah, so if you're unsure what you're looking at, don't shoot. Take your time. Target adult ewes with longer horns, long face, and multiple annuli. So you're taking the more mature ones out of the population. And then, you know, if that's your last resort, look for testicles, look for a penis, and just make sure you don't make a stupid mistake and accidentally shoot a ram. So that's it.